And welcome back to the show. Well, now I want to take a look at a movie that is going to be one of the most surprising films of this year. We didn't know it, but we needed Dev Patel as a filmmaker and an action star to make this year complete. I am absolutely convinced that Monkey Man is one of the movies of this year. Now, this is a film that I actually didn't know much about until I saw a trailer a couple of months ago. And to quote a very, very famous ad, when I saw that trailer, my first reaction was, "Shut up and take my money." This movie looked spectacular just from the trailer alone. There was just from that trailer, like I've said before on this show, that often a trailer isn't a good representation of a movie, but this one actually is. It showed a dark, foreboding kind of movie with this really interesting character, played by Dev Patel, that I couldn't wait to see. Now, I have to say that Dev Patel is one of my favorite actors out there, at the moment. I think I've loved most of the movies that he's made during his career. Um, I Yeah, there's just so many Dev Patel movies out there that I've loved over the years. Hotel Mumbai, films like that. Just even like going right back to early on in his career with films like Lion, Slumdog Millionaire. There is just so much that I have loved about him as an actor over the years that he was almost enough to sell me this movie in a sense. But I'm glad that I actually sat down and watched this movie and took my time with it, because this is an absolutely fantastic film. Dev Patel plays a character called Kid, and we meet him as he's involved in an underground boxing scene, a very bloodthirsty boxing scene, and he fights at a club under the knowledge of a guy called Tiger, played by Shartlo Copley. Now, it's kind of interesting because you don't learn a lot about Kid at the start. For some reason, he wears a monkey mask. We know that. He's the monkey in this ring where there's vipers and tigers and other people like that in the ring. He wears the monkey mask. He's not particularly good as a boxer. He gets beaten up a lot, but you learn more about that later on, and I'll go into that in a little bit as well. So it's an interesting story. You then see his flashbacks, flashbacks of a time when his mother was killed. Now, we learn more about that as it goes on as well. We learn that she was killed because of the actions of a man called Baba Shakti, played by Makrand Deshpande, and was actually killed by a corrupt police officer called Rana, played by Sikandar Kher. Now, this is where this film gets interesting, because you soon learn that he wants to go after the people responsible for his mother's death. People like Rana, and people like Queenie, played by Ashwina Kausekar, which he realizes is the way to get to Rana. She runs this illegal kind of escort service through the guise of a hotel, and Kid realizes that the only way that he's going to be able to get into that world, because this film does look at class a lot as well. The only way that someone of his class can get into that hotel is to work there. So he has to get to Queenie, he has to get that job to start this trip of bloody vengeance. But this is what I love about this movie. Now, I do love the John Wick films, I will admit to that. But one of the things that's always worried me about John Wick is you kind of know where those films are going to end up. John Wick is this fearsome kind of criminal slash assassin that people fear. You know, there's a good chance that if he goes into a battle, he's going to win it. Even in the last John Wick film, where it was like, man, this guy could die even walking up these stairs, you kind of knew that John Wick was going to get out of that. With Kid as this character that you see in the ring and getting beaten mercifully, you kind of think, how is this guy ever going to go up against people like corrupt police officers? But that's where I take my hat off to Dev Patel as a filmmaker and also the screenwriters responsible for this project, because there's a hidden secret there that you learn very early on, that the reason he likes to get beaten is because he's got so much psychological damage from what happened to his mother that he actually enjoys pain. Um, and that's something that will become important later on in the movie, because of course, if he's in a fight and he's used to being beaten, then he can endure most of what these guys dish out and just wait for that right time. But there's so much in this film that I like, because it goes deeper than like what a John Wick movie will. There's a lot more spirituality in this film. One of the things that Kid needs to learn is that his body might be right, and he might be more than capable of holding himself in a fight once he starts to get things right, but his mind is not right. So the first couple of times he goes after people, he messes it up because he just hasn't thought it through. His mind is not right. He needs that spirituality. Like I said earlier, this movie looks at things like class systems, how women are treated when they're brought into a country like this, and exploited through people like Queenie. There's so much in this movie that goes deeper than the average action film, and the action. That's not saying the action in this movie doesn't work, because it does. I love the car chase sequences. I love the fight sequences. But this is more about a character having to grow in all different ways to achieve his ultimate goal of revenge. He has to work on his fighting skills. He has to learn how to use weapons. But most importantly, he has to be spiritually in touch with himself and also have his mind right in order to do these things. There's a great moral in there as well about class systems and something that happens right around the world, the poor being forced off out of their villages and off their property, in order for some rich person or corporation to come in and take over. There's some great morals in this film as well. Well thought out. The sequences with Kid and the dog and where that leads to are just really well thought out. This is very much a thinking man's action film, but also at the same time, it's artistic. Dev Patel, as a filmmaker and his cinematographer, make this a dark, foreboding kind of movie. Someone said to me, like, when they watched this film, that it made them feel yucky and dirty, and it's like, that's exactly how you should feel when you're watching this movie. It's taking you into the back streets and the criminal clubs of India. It's not supposed to be a movie that looks good. If Dev Patel was working in a hotel that looked like the hotels that he worked in Hotel Mumbai and stuff like that, this movie wouldn't work. It needs to be dirty. It needs to be grimy. This guy is, like, nearly every night face down after being beaten and laying in blood and urine. Like, it's supposed to be gross. It's supposed to be disgusting. So if you're watching Monkey Man and you're feeling gross and disgusting, then you're feeling exactly the way that this movie should make you feel, because that's what the character is feeling like at that time. And that, to me, is a power in filmmaking. I have to say now, I can't wait to see what Dev Patel plans on doing after this. Like I said, we've seen him in so many great movies over the years as an actor, but now it feels like this is the right time to see what he can do as a producer or a director. Like, he's done short films before. He's done Home Shopper and he did Robovosky, but now we're seeing him as this kind of talented director. And it's actually funny because when I was watching this movie, I was thinking of Danny Boyle, which wouldn't be too far of a stretch to imagine, because of course Danny Boyle directed a very young Dev Patel in Slumdog Millionaire. But there is something in this movie that made me think of Danny Boyle, the way that Danny Boyle can kind of do an action or do a genre flick, a flick like 28 Days Later or Sunshine, but also have a strong moral in there, but also make it look artistic. Having that whole feeling of this movie, like, I know this is probably a reference more for people that live in Melbourne, but this is a film that can show in a great big multiplex like Jam Factory, but also feels well and truly at home in somewhere like a Palace Cinema or a Cinema Nova. So it mixes action and genre with art house, and in a way does it so well that I just can't wait to see what Dev Patel chooses to do next as a director. And of course, this is a passion project for him, this film. He really had to fight to have this film come into fruition. There were so many roadblocks that he went through as a producer and a director on this film to get it off the ground, that to me shows this guy really wants to make films. So yeah, I'm pretty excited, I have to say, as a Dev Patel fan, to see him in a movie like this, where we see him in a different light as an actor, as an action kind of hero. But it also makes me excited to see where he is going to go now as a director as well, because I think he shows here that he's got some real talents. I am going to give Monkey Man 5 out of 5. I really, really loved this film. I think it's one of the best genre flicks I've seen in a long, long time, and shows us that Dev Patel is going to be an exciting director in the future. So I'm giving this one 5 out of 5. It is a general release, so check your local cinema guide to see where it is screening near you.